Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. It seems over the last 3 or 4 weeks, terror attacks or militant encounters seem to be happening almost every other day in the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. By one tally, 16 or 17 people may have been killed during this period. So today we ask, how serious is the situation? Why is this happening now? And what should be the response of the state government and the security forces? Those are some of the top questions I shall now put to the former head of R&AW and a renowned expert on Kashmir, Amarjit Singh Dulat. Mr. Dulat, it seems as if almost every second day there's a terror attack or encounter with militants in Jammu and Kashmir. Some newspapers report that in the last 3 weeks, perhaps 16 or 17 people have been killed. Are you surprised by this sharp spike in terror?
Yeah, one is always a bit surprised, but the point is that terror has never gone away. What we need to remember in Kashmir, in the context of Kashmir, is that it's never really gone away, and people keep comparing the situation to the 89-90, which was the worst period. I don't think it's ever going to be as bad as that. Hopefully not, but yeah, it goes up every now and then. And what is significant as I see it today is that this is coming from Pakistan. Let me make that clear first, and that Pakistan, the Kashmiris wanted an election this time. I'm talking about the assembly elections. They also wanted the parliament election, but more the assembly election. They wanted a government of their own. And Pakistan went along with that. So there was no incident of violence during the period of the elections. And now that we have a Kashmiri government, a sweeping mandate for the National Conference, Pakistan is quite happy with that, as is the Kashmiri. So this will keep going up and down. And, one of the reasons now Jammu has been disturbed over the last 6 months, except for the period of the elections. And I think this shifts to Jammu because of, I think, a big factor, which we tend to forget, is 2019. You and I will say that it's over, it's done, it's dusted. But in the Kashmiri mind, it's not so. It still disturbs the Kashmiri mind. That no, whatever happened was not correct. They know it's not going to come back, but at the same time, it does disturb the Kashmiri mind. And if you recall, Pakistan kept quiet after 2019. And the Kashmiri was disappointed, as were people in Pakistan. Now I think they're making up for it. That what they're trying to tell the Kashmiri is that we are around, we are back, we are with you. And so this will carry on.
I'll come to the Pakistani involvement in a moment's time, and I'll come to the causes behind the spike in terror when I talk about that. But first, let me put to you a question about the extent of the terror. It seems to be happening both in the Jammu division and the Kashmir division of the Union territory. You mentioned that for the last 6 months, Jammu has been disturbed. This month alone, there have been attacks in Kashmir, in Kokarnag, Shopia and Tral in southern Kashmir, Gandarbal in central Kashmir, and the Gulmarg area of Baramulla in northern Kashmir. So it's not localized. It's happening right across the sweep of the Union Territory.
That's right. That's right. You see, if you remember, we've discussed this before also, and at one time, a couple of months ago, it was focused mainly in the Poonch Rajouri area, Poonch Rajouri, Suranpur, that area, and that remained disturbed for quite a long period. Maybe we've taken care of that area, although it's a very difficult area, thickly forested and whatever it is, but it seems quieter now. So what they did was they shifted the focus to Jammu proper, where 8 out of 10 districts have been disturbed. Now, the other interesting thing about Jammu is that, this is where the Western Command and the Northern Command meet somewhere there. And I think at times, possibly both commands feel that it is the other person's, sphere of looking after. And therefore, I think they've been surprised at times. I remember hearing some time back that boys were coming through R.S.Pura. Now, R.S.Pura, as far as I think, is under the charge of 16th Corps and Northern Command, but it's very close to the Western Command. And I was told at one time that 9-10 boys had come in, and 6 or 7 remained in the Jammu area, and a couple of them went up to Himachal. So the way this thing is spreading, it might not be contained just to Jammu.
You're making a very important point. You're saying that a lot of this is happening in that area where Northern Command and Western Command meet. Are you suggesting that, in a sense, it's falling through the cracks between the two commands?
Cracks or misunderstanding or whatever it is, it's 16 Corps, and I think the other corps in Pathankot is 9 Corps. So they're very close to each other there. And possibly both think it's the other's responsibility.
Is one command or the other letting its guard down? Is there a sense in which they've taken their eye off the ball, which is why this is happening?
No, I won't say that. I don't have any evidence of that, and I wouldn't know about it. But this is a matter which is raised at times that, both these commands are very close to each other. And therefore, possibly, somebody is missing out on something.
So there's an area in between Northern and Western Command where the two commands, to use your words, are missing out on something.
Missing out on something, yeah, possibly, yeah.
And that missing out, does it amount to a measure of negligence, or is it just accidental?
I think it's accidental or misunderstanding or whatever it is. I don't think it's deliberate negligence, no. I think it's just because they're so close to each other that, and nobody expected that Jammu would be so disturbed, but it has become disturbed now.
But let me interrupt. This has been going on in the Jammu area for 6-7 months, as you said. Even if it's a result of something missing out or some misunderstanding, surely in 6 months it should have been put right.
The point I'd like to make here is that we look at these things only militarily, that they're
No, we'll come to the other side in a moment's time, but first answer this. If it's gone on for 6 months, then surely by now it should have been put right, and it hasn't been.
Well, as I said, I think it has been put right in the Poonch Rajouri area. So it's shifted to Jammu proper now. And when something is controlled in Jammu, it goes up to the valley, now. But the other point I'd like to make is that these killings or these attacks are very targeted, It's not just killing anybody. Now, what happened in that, what you mentioned, Gandarbal district?
Can I interrupt? You've made a very important point. You said it was first happening in Poonch Rajouri. When it was stopped there, it broke out in Jammu. When it was stopped in Jammu, it moved to Kashmir. It seems to me as if the terrorists are always one step ahead.
They would be because they're all over the place. And I'm sure you remember last time we spoke about these sleeper cells. I'm quite sure that they have sleeper cells all over. Unless, now let's take the latest attack in Akhnur, where the army says they have knocked off the 3 or 4 terrorists or whatever it is. But the army commander there has acknowledged that these guys didn't come in just the day that they were killed. They've been around for a while and they may have come in through some other route. And they just were found in Akhnur or came into conflict or combat in Akhnur.
So what is the cause of all of this? After all, as you pointed out at the beginning, the elections went off very smoothly with a fairly high turnout in September and October. A new government has been sworn in with a comfortable majority, and the lieutenant governor doesn't miss an opportunity to tell us that the situation is normal. And yet, despite that, we have a prolonged spike in terror. So what is the cause, or what are the causes?
Oh, that is one of the causes. What you just mentioned, this narrative that everything is normal in Kashmir or in Jammu and Kashmir. This whole thing is also to defeat that narrative of normalcy. That there is no normalcy in Kashmir or in Jammu. What are you talking about? And therefore, that's why I say that 2019 remains unpopular in the Kashmiri mind. It has not gone out of the Kashmiri mind. And therefore, and also the Kashmiris have not forgotten the past. There was a time when Delhi was dealing more empathetically with Kashmir. I'm talking of Vajpayee's time or Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, when the separatists or the Hurriyat were in conversation with the government of India.
But you're making a wider point. You're saying the repeated boasts by the lieutenant governor and sometimes by members of the security services as well, that everything is normal, is actually provoking the terror to prove it's not normal.
Quite right. That's one of the reasons.
What are the other reasons?
The other reason I told you is to tell the Kashmiri or comfort the Kashmiri in a sense, not that the Kashmiri is very fond of Pakistan, that we are around, we are with you, and we'll fight for you. That's the other big reason, as I see it.
So there are two reasons why the terror has spiked in this prolonged fashion at the moment. One, to disprove the governor's narrative that everything is normal. And secondly, Pakistan is showing to the Kashmiris, after having allowed a successful election to happen, that we are there behind you, we're on your side. You're saying both of the explanations.
Absolutely. If you recall, Dr. Farooq Abdullah, I think, who understands the relationship between Delhi, Srinagar, and Islamabad better than anybody else, has repeatedly said that we need to engage with Pakistan, otherwise this bloodshed is not going to end. I'm not saying that, the only reason is that, but it is an important thing. We need to figure out that, are we going to carry on or, after 2019, I did acknowledge that the muscular policy worked for a while. How it worked was that our own boys, particularly in southern Kashmir, gave up the gun for a while. There was a time before 2019, between 2000, let's say 14, 15, 18, 16, that there were boys who were willing to die, and then they gave up all this. Now what is happening is mostly it's cross-border terrorism. It's coming from across. Our own boys, the only sign I got of it was in Gulmarg, where the JK police says that one of the boys involved was from Kulgam. He had been missing from home, and possibly
Let me, in that context, quote what the Economic Times claims the army has told that paper. I'm talking of an Economic Times article from Monday, that is 2 days ago. According to the paper, the army claims there are 120 or 130 militants in the Union Territory, and they are mainly foreigners. In other words, they have come mainly from Pakistan. Secondly, the
Yes.
army believes that these are equally distributed between Jammu and Kashmir. Now, 4 or 5 months ago, the security services were telling the newspapers that the number of foreign militants was 70, 80. If it's now jumped up to 120, 130, how worrying is that increase?
Yeah, so probably it has increased. These figures always go up and down like militancy itself. But the thing is that possibly Pakistan was preparing for the elections to be over. And now that the elections are over, they've hyped up militancy again. And as I said, this is not going to stop. The bigger question here is whenever you want to talk about it,
I'll come to that in a moment's time, what we should do. But let's first get a grip on the terror that's happening. I want to understand that before we move to talk about how we tackle it. You mentioned two broad main causes for this prolonged spike in terror. The first, as you said, is a deliberate attempt to disprove the governor's narrative that everything is normal. In other words, his narrative is provoking the terrorists to disprove him. And the second is Pakistan showing to Kashmiris, we're there with you, we're supporting you. Is there a third reason?
yeah, the third reason, as I mentioned to you also, is that 2019 hasn't gone out of the Kashmiri mind. And Pakistan takes advantage of that. It didn't do so then, but now it feels the time is right. Jammu and Kashmir has a government of its own, and the Kashmiri feels a little more, a little happier, a little freer, a little more open, a little more talkative. There was total silence some time ago. Now people have begun to talk again, and people have begun to express their views again.
So you're saying that the abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, something that the Modi government has begun to say has been accepted, it's over, it's done, is not over. That is still ranking, and that is another cause for the terror.
I must admit I misunderstood it myself, but I think this election result also proves that 2019 is not out of the minds of the Kashmiri. This sweeping mandate is also a result of the unpopularity, if I might say, of 2019. The National Conference itself has been surprised by the number of seats that it has got. They were estimating at the most 35. They ended up with 42. And nobody else. That's the way the Kashmiris wanted it. Togetherness. And that's the way Pakistan wanted it, I'm sure.
And you believe that this is a third cause underlying the spike in terror we're seeing?
Yeah. Let's not forget 2019. I had forgotten it, but now I keep getting reminded that 2019 has not gone out of the minds of the Kashmiris. It's very unpopular. It has been very unpopular, if nothing else.
Against this background, Mr. Dulat, let's now come to that issue that you were keen to raise earlier, which I stopped you from raising at that point. Let's bring it up now. As someone who knows Kashmir extremely well, and as someone who has been head of R&AW, what do you believe should be the response of the government and the security services to tackle this spike in terror?
You see, there is a military issue here, and we are dealing with it militarily. We always have. But what we have forgotten in all this business of muscular policy and an iron fist and all that, we have totally forgotten engagement. We forgot engagement with the separatists long ago. Now we don't even engage with the mainstream. And Dr. Farooq keeps complaining about that. I think he stopped complaining now because his party is in governance now. But the point is that I think Delhi needs to figure out as a long-term policy on Kashmir whether this muscular policy will solve Kashmir or sort out Kashmir, or we need to go back to that policy of engagement that Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee advocated and Dr. Manmohan Singh continued with, and which went down very well in Kashmir. They still remember Vajpayee in Kashmir. And because it was
because there will be people hearing you who will ask themselves, what in concrete terms? There will be people hearing you who will ask themselves, what in concrete terms does engaging with Kashmir mean? Can you suggest 2 or 3 steps that need to be taken?
Well, I've mentioned these steps that, as I say, a more empathetic, humanistic approach, which, Vajpayee projected, real or unreal, whatever it was. But it went down well with the Kashmiri. And let's not forget that Delhi was at that time talking to separatists. Advani ji had 2 rounds of talks with the Hurriyat. And that Hurriyat began to be talked about in Srinagar as the Advani Hurriyat. Now we're forgetting all these things,
Does this also include the restoration of statehood on an early basis?
I think it's in Delhi's immediate interest to do so. The longer Delhi takes, the worse it will be for its credibility and also the credibility of the new government, Omar Abdullah's government, because Omar has been very kind, I would say, very understanding. Let's not forget that 370 was a part of the National Conference election manifesto. The National Conference had said, we will bring back 370. Now, the point is, at the first cabinet meeting, the assembly has not met yet. I think it's meeting on the 4th for the first time. But in the first cabinet meeting, Omar had a resolution passed on statehood. He forgot or he bypassed 370 altogether in the hope that Delhi would understand. And he has said repeatedly that he would like to be on the right side of Delhi and work with Delhi. So I think, and he has been in Delhi and he's met everybody who matters. I think it's in Delhi's interest to do so at the earliest.
Would an early restoration of statehood also help tackle the terror situation?
I won't say it will help settle the terror situation. There are various factors as we've been talking. But it will certainly help Omar Abdullah in governance.
I'll come to Omar Abdullah in a moment's time. Let's stick to terror for now. What are the other steps beyond an empathetic approach similar to Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh that need to be taken to sort out the terror situation? Beyond the empathetic approach, what needs to be done?
I'm repeatedly mentioning those 2 great individuals only because at that time terror had gone down. Let's not forget that the ceasefire of 2003 that came about during Vajpayee's time lasted for a number of years. And terror had gone down because Musharraf had realized that terror was not solving any problems, and we were engaging with Pakistan as well. Let's not forget that, Prime Minister Vajpayee in Srinagar on I think the 17th of April 2003 said that he had tried twice with Pakistan, been let down twice, but he's going to try one more time, and he still went to Pakistan for the SAARC summit in January 2004.
So your advice to Mr. Modi is emulate and follow the policy and principles Vajpayee followed.
I can't say these things, I can't say these things.
But that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you said.
Yeah, I can't say it to a prime minister. It's for him to figure out.
No, I'm not saying you're saying it to him face to face, but your advice to him would be.
I'm nobody to advise anybody. I don't think anybody listens to my advice, but I'm telling you what I feel and what I know and what I've seen in Kashmir.
Let's talk about Omar Abdullah directly. Yeah. Within a day or so of taking over as chief minister, Omar Abdullah flew to Delhi, where he spent a few days meeting the prime minister, the home minister, and other top ministers, asking for the restoration of statehood. Was it a mistake to fly to Delhi so soon after taking over, or was it essential and understandable? Which of the two?
I think it's both actually. I think it's Umar's style of functioning. Let me say, Dr. Saab would not have done that. These are different styles of functioning. I will not disagree with what Umar has done, but he needs to remember that every move of his, particularly whenever he goes to Delhi, will be watched very, very closely in Kashmir. That is why his father said to him that I wish you the best of luck, but don't forget, this is a crown of thorns. It's not easy. It's
You're
not
saying
easy.
a very important thing, Mr. Dulat. You're saying Farooq Abdullah, if he had been chief minister, would not have come to Delhi to meet the prime minister and other ministers so soon after taking over.
No, he would not have. He would not have come to Delhi so soon or so hastily, unless he had some very clear signal from Delhi that okay, we are prepared to do what you want. You know. So I'm only hoping for Delhi's sake and for Kashmir's sake and most of all Omar Abdullah's sake that statehood is restored quickly.
So you're saying that Farooq Abdullah's coming to Delhi so soon after taking over was hasty?
Yeah, he did. I mean, it's a question of your style and your belief. If you believe, and I'm sure Umar believes that whatever the Prime Minister said to him or whatever he said to the Prime Minister will happen soon.
But it
And
was hasty. But the important thing is Farooq Abdullah, and I'm quoting you, would not have come so hastily. Omar Abdullah did.
yeah, let me tell you one more thing. The other day, it I found it a bit amusing, but Omar was addressing a whole lot of the bureaucrats in Srinagar. And he told them that this hybrid sort of functioning will not last, will not do. I've been to Delhi, I've spoken to the highest authority, and what he was trying to say was that we will have statehood back. So you guys need to make up your mind who you're with. I think the message was clear, but that is why I say that I hope Delhi will back that message. Delhi will support that message. Otherwise, Omar will have a difficult time in Kashmir.
You're saying two important things. If Delhi does not move to grant statehood quickly,
Yeah,
Omar will be looking embarrassed.
yeah, well, yeah, he will look embarrassed, and I think it doesn't do Delhi any good either.
One
Because
other thing, the message that he delivered, and I'm quoting the Indian Express of Monday, was twofold.
yeah,
First, he told administrative secretaries in Srinagar that if they breached the integrity pledge that he had administered to them, they would face serious consequences. And what he called the shield of being a union territory is only temporary and would not protect them. And
that's
secondly, he warned them against exploiting the present hybrid system of governance.
yeah,
Now,
that's right.
as a message to your top civil servants and bureaucrats, was this a wise message to give, or does it run the risk of putting their backs up?
No, I think it was. That's again, it's Omar's style. He's direct, he's straight, and I think he put it very correctly. That you guys need to realize who you're working for. And from whatever I hear, the relationship it's not a long relationship, but it's not working well between the lieutenant governor and the chief minister.
You mean it's barely been, I think, a week or a few days more, and
Yeah,
already you're worried that the relationship between the lieutenant governor and the chief minister is not working well?
no, it doesn't appear to be working. No.
Why do you say that?
But that's the impression one gets, and that's what people say if you're in Srinagar.
You know the Abdullahs extremely well. There's no one in Delhi who knows Farooq Abdullah better. Have you had this from him?
No, 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 no. Farooq won't say these things. Farooq has stepped back. He left it to his son, and he will not interfere in all this. I have not heard it from Farooq at all, and Farooq doesn't talk about these things. No, I've heard it from people in Srinagar that every day. I mean, look at it like this. The other day, as you said, Umar called a meeting of the bureaucrats. He calls the meeting, the lieutenant governor calls the meeting. The lieutenant governor calls the meeting, and Umar then also calls the meeting. I mean, why does the lieutenant governor need to call a meeting of bureaucrats every day if there is an elected government now? The message being sent by the lieutenant governor is that he's still in charge, he's still in control. And that takes me back to what Kejriwal said to Omar Abdullah. If you want to learn how to run a half government, I can tell you.
But you said a very important thing. The lieutenant governor is deliberately sending out a message to the state bureaucracy that he, the governor, is in control, not the chief minister.
Of course he is. Not only to the bureaucracy, that's bad enough, but he's also sending a message to the new state government.
How bad is the relationship between them? You're suggesting now, when you begin talking of details, that it's not good at all.
I don't know whether it's good or bad, but it's not the way it should be. It's not a good relationship. Let me put it like that. Let me put it straight. It doesn't appear to be a good relationship. And that's not good for Kashmir.
One last thing. You said the people in Kashmir will be watching Omar Abdullah very closely, and in particular, the sort of relationship he has and keeps with Delhi. Now, when he came bearing expensive shawls for the Prime Minister, for the Home Minister, and for the other top ministers. That was noticed in Kashmir. Pictures of that were on the papers there. How would that have gone down?
You see, everything is noticed in Kashmir. Let's not talk about shawls. My friend Sajjad Lone said something about shawls. But let's not talk about shawls. The point is, every little thing is noticed by Kashmir. And let me tell you one more thing. Delhi thinks it's clever. Islamabad thinks it's cleverer. But the cleverest of them all is the Kashmiri. I tell you this.
But tell me this. Was it a mistake on Omar's part within the first few days of becoming chief minister?
No, Mr.
No, let me finish. Not just to come to Delhi, which you said his father would not have done. You said his father would not have been so hasty. But was it a compounding mistake to then be publicly seen giving expensive gifts to the Prime Minister and the Home Minister?
Nothing wrong with it. That's okay. As I said, these are different styles.
How's it gone down in Kashmir?
I don't know. I don't think the shawl business will create a big furor or anything but yes, when Umar goes to Delhi or comes to Delhi, it will be watched. What is he talking about? What is he getting? What is he giving? That kind of thing.
Okay, Mr. Dulat, let's leave it there. I'm extremely grateful for this interview and for the time you've given me. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Thapar. I think we seem to have a love affair relationship.
If that's how you want to phrase it, I certainly will not disagree.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.